It is I, Brett Sieber, your king, and for one night only, Doc Brown. Welcome back to the FTFL Weekly Update. Happy to be back. Boy, oh boy, 8 weeks in, 5 weeks to go. Woo! Things are getting tight. As everyone jostling for position, trades all over the place, and one team continues to march on undeterred by what's going on around him. I mean, you look at this, man. We had 3 2-5 teams this week win. Teams that were selling. Now, granted, Kramerica was selling for about 34 seconds, and then the white flag got tucked away. They made a bunch of huge trades. But Andy and Salty both sold. All 3 win. All 3 move to 3-5 and are right there in the playoff race. Did John, who was also 2-5 coming into this week, unknowingly sell? After many attempts to get Todd Gurley have failed, a newcomer came through, and John, in his response, in thinking that he was going to be asking for a first, second, and third, got a second, and a third. That's on you, John. That's not the computer's fault. Saltmarsh, also a seller. Did he have immediate remorse upon selling? Did he ask for Melvin Gordon back? I guess you'll have to ask his trade dancing partner for more on that little tidbit. It's just, again, as we're now 8 weeks, 2 weeks to go before the trade deadline, everyone trying to figure out, does my team have a shot? Do they not have a shot? Should I be selling? Should I be buying? Everything's tightening up. And of course, amongst all of this, risen amongst everyone, the cream of the crop, not the king, entirely different situation. But the cream of the crop, Ryan Deesum, moves on to 7-1. Woo! All but clinching a playoff spot. A couple little funny notes this week. 5 out of the 10 teams had their kicker as their number 1 or number 2 scorer on their team. It's been quite a year for kickers. And lastly, before we get into the games, the Jimmy situation, the Jimmy drought has come to an end. The streak stops at 5. Hagen gets a win. Still, though, in my opinion, has to go 4-2 at best. At the worst, 4-2 at the worst, to make it into the playoffs. It is going to be an exciting 5 weeks. Let's get to the games. First and foremost, Ryan Deesum and his giant, saggy, 6-1, titties and balls, taking on the Pack Attack. Back-to-back weeks. We had a couple of these this week. This happens in the schedule from time to time. Taking on Pack Attack at 4-3. And the same result as last week. Ryan Deesum 114, Eric 86.5. If you're Ryan Deesum, this is the 4th out of the last 5 weeks where you have scored 100 or more points. Will Fuller, the 5th, 26.5. My God, the vaunted Seattle's pass defense, or just defense in general, nowhere to be found this week. I also took that square on the chin like you did, Eric. Travis Kelce, 17.5. The Seattle defense, 17. Muhammad, I have to start you because everyone else has a bye. Sanu chipped in 13. Oh, by the way, his season high. Yeah, that horseshoe is buried somewhere in there deep. Dak Prescott, speaking of horseshoe, and making it out unscathed and lucky once again, 2 points. But again, a moot point because Eric left Russell Wilson on the bench in favor starting Drew Brees, who put up 4 points. And I went back and looked over the last 2 seasons. When was the last time Drew Brees scored 4 points? And I was actually surprised. It was towards the end of last season, but only 5 times in the last 2.5 seasons has Drew Brees scored in the single digits. And oh, by the way, let that sink in because that's what got me a Deesum Award, acquiring that man for a second-round pick all those years ago. Actually, Magic 8 Ball and the Deesum trophy here linked together tonight. You'll hear more on that later. For Eric, Philly scored 21. Matt Bryant, one of those kickers in the top 2 spots, 15. Lamar Miller, 17.5. Jay Ajayi, 4 points. But with the recent trade now to the Philadelphia Eagles, does that bring Jay Ajayi's stock up? If you're the 4-4 Pack Attack who is in the thick of the hunt, you're definitely hoping So, onwards to the Architect. Another rematch at 5-2, taking on Kramerica at 2-5. Kramerica, again, we covered this last week, selling, but no, I'm not selling anymore. All but just like a sip of coffee in the seller's market, right back into the buyer's market, traded away all those extra picks, brought in Melvin Gordon, brought in Michael Thomas, brought in Todd Gurley, and now, if he can just get enough wins, he finds himself in a very good position, and this week revenges his loss from last week, 82.5 to the Architect 73. For Kramerica, Melvin Gordon right out the chute, 87-yard touchdown, longest of his career. Big. Most of his points actually on the day came on that one play. Kind of been the story of Melvin's season, up and down, boom or bust. Cincinnati defense 14, Tom Brady 12. All those additions, you still have to now probably go 4-2 at the least, and that will bring you to 6-7. And fighting for 5-1 is going to be preferred. And then even then, depending on what happens, it might not be a guarantee. You have pushed everything into the middle of the table. I said on the chat board, I kind of feel the DSOM award race now is a 2-horse race between you and Adam Swart. Over to the Architect with 73 points, Ezekiel Elliott, and what might be his final performance until December 17th, 22.5 points. Adam Vinatieri with 11. Devontae Freeman, 4.5. What has happened to the Atlanta Falcons offense? I mean, they have absolutely just fallen apart. Matt Ryan is struggling. Devontae Freeman is struggling. Julio Jones, everyone, except of course for Mohamed Sanu, who grabbed a hold of that golden horseshoe for DSOM this past week. Matt Stafford, 8 points. The Detroit Lions offense reeling. If you're the Architect, you fall to 5-3. Not terrible, but maybe not the position you wanted to find yourself in as the playoff push starts, especially without Zeke Elliott for the foreseeable future. Last game here before we get to the Magic 8 Ball, the Hulkamaniacs coming in at 5-2, taking on the lowly Radioactive Monkeys at 2-5. 29 points from the Baltimore defense Thursday night. I thought we are in some real good shape. And then Paul Richardson scored 2 touchdowns. Who might you ask? Who? Yeah, Paul Richardson. Some podunk third or fourth string receiver up in Seattle. And when that brother scored 2 touchdowns, I knew I was in trouble. Despite scoring 94 points, a solid outing. I lose by 10. The Monkeys put up 104. For the Monkeys, DeAndre Hopkins. Holy moly. Did anyone cover him? Can anyone touch him? It was terrible. Terrible. 28 points. Again, Paul Richardson, 21. Jerick McKinnon, 19. And you're going to need more from that guy going forward now that you no longer have Melvin Gordon. Smallwood, half a point. Now, Jay Ajayi joins an already crowded backfield. It probably means doomsday for Smallwood. Might be the last legit start, and I use that term loosely, for Smallwood. The Hulkamaniacs, Carson Wentz, 22. The Baltimore defense, 29. Jordan Reed, coming off 2 touchdown week, the biggest week of the season, follows it up with a half point and an injury. Right, that's kind of where we're at. Good week, not great enough. I fall to 5-3. The Monkeys rise to 3-5. Now, for the Magic 8 Ball. A lot has been talked about the DSOM update this year, DSOM Award, involving the Jimmy situation, involving the used car salesman, and let's be honest, just involving repeat offenders. So tonight, I'm going to go back through a few of my favorite DSOM Award winners, and we're going to ask the Magic 8 Ball if that award was legitimate. Now, of course, we already found out that indeed it was the computer's fault. We've argued about that for years. Now we absolutely know the truth. So tonight, we're going to get to the bottom of a few other of these. All right, so I'm going to open this up, and there it is, 2004 Adam Saltmarsh. It was the computer's fault. Proven true. It was the computer's fault. Let's see here. I got to find where my favorite one, or one of my favorite ones here. Let's see here. Did Jeff, here it is, 2015, everyone's favorite. Jeff's team was doing so well, he was giving away draft picks for nothing. Did Jeff actually mean to give Eric a draft pick for nothing? Magic 8 Ball, drop your wisdom on us. What do you got for us? It says, yes, definitely. Well then, this DSOM award was well deserved. Moving on, let's see what else we got here. Let's see. Wait a minute. Back to the original DSOM Award winner in 2003, Ryan DSOM. All I had to do is submit a lineup to make the playoff. Had Ryan DSOM and Bop submitted a lineup, would Ryan DSOM still have won that game and made the playoffs. Magic 8 Ball, this one goes all the way back to the beginning, and it says, Ryan Deesum, it is certain. Had you just submitted a lineup, this never even would have happened. Oh my gosh! I mean, but think. You fell on that sword first. You died on that mountain because think of the joy you have provided us over the years. And last but certainly not least, here it is, 2007 co-winners. Adam Swart needed 8 running backs, and we all know what's coming. Brett Sieber wasted a second-round pick on Drew Brees. Magic 8 Ball, did I waste a second-round pick on Drew Brees back in 2007? And it says, wait for it, hold on, most likely. Well, this thing is apparently broken. I'm done with it. Moving on. That was really terrible. Magic 8 Ball, you are the worst. All right, back to the games. Boy, but Deesum, just think, we almost didn't get this little beauty. Coming up, Mana, 3-time champ. Mana coming in at 3-4, taking on Team Linkowitz. The aforementioned minus Todd Gurley because I may have made a mistake. 2-5. And what a blowout. 68.5 point difference. 115 for Mana. 46.5 for Linkowitz. And by the way, this could have been worse. You're thinking, how does it get worse? Had Jeff played Deshaun Watson. Watson had 44 points. His score would have been up to 149 and I believe would have broken the all-time points record. Now remember, the week prior, Jeff scored 58.5. So this is kind of like a bungee jump where you're up, you're down, and then you're probably going to settle somewhere in the middle. Will that be enough? It was enough this week. You're back to 500, along with, I should say, Deshaun 44 on the bench. Starting for Jeff Marshall, LaShawn McCoy got 23. Matt Prater, another one of those kickers in the top 2, got 19. The KC defense, 17. Washington, the backup running back for Oakland, Marks just swoops in, picks him up, gets a 1-start performance out of him. Sure, 14 points. Everything's coming up Millhouse, isn't it? Did survive a 0 from Zach Miller, and I don't bring that up because Zach Miller's a potential fantasy threat, but thank goodness Zach Miller gets to keep both his legs. Dude's got to walk. Good news on that front. If you're John, it was ugly. 46.5. I believe that might be the lowest point total of the season. Goskowski led the way with 15. Kirk Cousins with 10. 5 players at 3.5 points or under. Just really, really looking ugly. And now he's 2-6. And he's back down to the bottom of the pile again. He does have some extra draft picks for next year. Maybe, just maybe, Calvin Johnson comes out of retirement. John can pick him up and all we write in Team Linkowitz land. But then again, maybe not. Last game of the week, the people of Middle Spunk Creek at 4-3, taking on the Pit of Misery, Dilly Dilly, at 2-5, and the people who had a great opportunity right in front of them to then tie for the division lead in the North, to tie the king. The king. Let it slip through their fingers like a Kareem Hunt first ever carry fumble. 97.5 for the Pit of Misery, Dilly Dilly, to 68.5 for the people of Middle Spunk Creek. If you are the Pit of Misery, Dilly Dilly. The Bills at 17. Alshon Jeffrey 17. Most of that on 1 touchdown. Jimmy Graham, the right Jimmy, by the way, 16 points. Le'Veon Bell with 11. Jack Doyle, 20 on the bench. Didn't really matter. If you're the people of Middle Spunk Creek, boy, oh boy. Kareem Hunt, a new low, 5.5 points. Continues to just be below average. For an above average price, and you got to think, well, is he coming back? And I know you're going to ride this out because you kind of have to, but you're really hoping for a return to form for what you got earlier. Kai Forbath, then, the person leading the way with 17. David Carr with 12, the only 2 people in double figures. Because of the loss, you still find yourself a game back in the North. On to the stud, the dud, the Deesum update, and next week's games. Stud of the week, DeAndre Hopkins, 28 points, averaging just over 10 coming into the contest. No bother, Seattle's defense on the horizon. Boy, that seems like clean pickings, said nobody ever. But Deshaun Watson threw the ball all day. Will Fuller, DeAndre Hopkins absolutely just ran up the score. And for the now, keep Salty's season alive with the victory. The dud of the week, Drew Brees, 4 points. Now, history would have told us that if anyone was going to rise up and stick it to Ryan Deesum, it was going to be Drew Brees. And the original buzzsaw, buzzkill, 4 points. You get the dud of the week again. Only the 5th time in the last 2.5 seasons he scored that low. The Deesum update, Salty, I'd like to say the Melvin Gordon trade because you wanted it back, but at the same time, you got 2 first-round picks. So I think you kind of made out on that one. The Gurley trade, let's be honest, we're dealing with all sorts of issues this year with people pushing the wrong buttons, people not paying attention. You flat out didn't pay attention. I contacted you, said, hey, why did you give Sid, did you take 2 seconds and a third? I offered you a first and a third. I think the first is worth those 2 seconds, if not more. You're like, no, I got a first, second, and a third. I said, well, you better check again because I'm pretty sure the computer said 2 seconds and a third, and it did. Therefore, you slide into the race. But let's be honest, this is Swart and this is Hagen. Everything pushed in the middle, all in. Win or be enshrined. That's what's on the line. Onwards to week 9, 5 to go. A big one in the north. The Hulkamaniacs, Brett Sieber, the king of the FTFL at 5-3, taking on Mana, 3-time champ Mana at 4-4. The Architect, this is a big one in the south as they jockey for position at 5-3, taking on the Pack Attack at 4-4, who are reeling after 2 straight losses to Ryan Deesum and, yes, his big, giant, sweaty, smelly, oppressive titties and balls. Speaking of such, the 7-1 Deesum team taking on the Pit of Misery, Dilly Dilly at 3-5. Will the Pit of Misery be the one to put a stop to the streak? Time will tell. Kramerica looking for a win at 3-5, taking on the Monkeys at 3-5. And lastly, the people of Middle Spunk Creek at 4-4, taking on Team Linkowitz at 2-6. Last night was Halloween, one of my all-time favorite nights of the year. And let's be honest, it starts the march through the 60 greatest days in the calendar year from Halloween all the way to New Year's Day. And let's be honest, by New Year's Day, we'll know who won the FTFL championship, just like I did back in the year 2003. It could be yours. All it takes is a few more victories and a little bit of luck. Until then, good luck, my FTFLers. And we'll catch you next time on the FTFL Weekly Update. This is Brett signing off. See you later, future boys!